Did you know? There was a time when success was a crime for Black people in America, when owning land, building businesses, and thriving was enough to get you killed. And in Slocum, Texas, in 1910, that's exactly what happened. A prosperous Black community was destroyed, not because of war or famine, but because of pure hatred. Slocum, an unincorporated town in Anderson County, Texas, was unlike most Southern communities at the time. The town was predominantly Black, and many of its residents were landowners, business owners, and respected citizens. For some white residents, that was enough reason to be angry. But what pushed them over the edge was a simple job appointment. A local road construction foreman put a Black man in charge of hiring workers for a project, a role usually reserved for whites. A white resident, Jim Spurger, was enraged. He spread false rumors that Black residents were plotting an uprising. Panic spread, and before long, a white mob armed with rifles and shotguns was ready for bloodshed. Families ran for their lives, but the mob followed. Some Black residents fled into the dense forests and swamps, hoping to escape. But the killers hunted them down, shooting them in the back as they ran. Entire families disappeared, their names lost to history. Black homes were burned, businesses were looted, and within 48 hours, Slocum had been purged of its Black residents. Local newspapers, controlled by white editors, lied about the massacre. They reported that Black residents had started a riot, falsely claiming that whites acted in self-defense. But Sheriff William Black of Anderson County, one of the few officials to tell the truth, refused to cover it up. He told reporters that the killings were unprovoked, that white mobs were killing Negroes as fast as they could find them. By the time the massacre ended, official reports claimed that between 8 and 22 people had died, but eyewitness accounts suggest the number was closer to 200. Sheriff Black himself admitted it was impossible to know the true death toll because bodies were scattered in the woods. Many were never recovered, left to be found by the buzzards. Although 11 white men were arrested, only 7 were indicted. No one was ever prosecuted. No one was convicted. Instead, within a few months, the case was dismissed, and the land that once belonged to Black residents was taken by white families. The survivors never returned, too afraid to reclaim their homes. For over a century, Texas kept this crime a secret. Unlike the Tulsa Massacre, which eventually gained national attention, the Slocum Massacre was buried. No history books mentioned it, no state markers were placed, and local officials refused to acknowledge it. Some white residents even denied it happened at all. On January 16, 2016, after a long fight by descendants of the victims, a historical marker was finally placed in Slocum, honoring those who were murdered. But for the families who lost everything, the pain remains. Their loved ones never received justice. Their land was never returned. Their history was nearly erased. This is why we tell our own stories, because if we don't, they'll erase them. Slocum was not an isolated event. It was part of a pattern of racial violence that tore Black communities apart across America, from Tulsa to Rosewood to Slocum. Thank you for watching and supporting this page. Share this story, because knowing is just the beginning.